Howdy folks, LP Guru here, signing in to the next episode of Let's Play Final Fantasy 1. In this case, it is episode 2. We're picking up where we left off in the previous episode. Right now I'm just deciding on which save file I'm actually going to continue with. Now I'll just start with the original. And as stated at the end of the previous episode, I am so sorry for the technical issues experienced. Like I say, I have no idea what caused any of it, but I know it's beyond annoying for me to have to do any kind of voiceovers. Just the side note, personal note from me, I hate with a passion having to do voiceovers. I've never had to do it. Previous episode, my very first time, I don't like it. Don't like it at all. As a necessary evil, I'm definitely glad that the option exists. But no. I love being able to provide live commentary. Everything just flows better. The sound quality is better. I know that you all can hear me properly. Doesn't sound like I'm being drowned out by whatever's happening in the game, and it doesn't sound like I'm standing 50 feet away from the microphone, which is how it sounds in the voiceover. So again, I apologize. I hope and pray that it doesn't happen again. I have done a few test runs between recording episode 1 and now starting to record this episode, and I haven't run into that issue again. But at the same time, my test runs also weren't, an hour long. So hopefully it won't show up again. But one thing I will add really quick to tie everything in and to wrap all this up is when you notice that I'm on the status screen, more than likely it's because I need to take a quick break and look at my computer screen where everything is recording from, so I can check and make sure that the live commentary status is still recording. Because if this does happen again, what I'll do is, depending on how long the episode is when the issue is encountered, I may cut the episode there and start the next episode, because sometimes the software that I'm using, sometimes it just, I don't know if it encounters an overload and just drops the live commentary and keeps the video and audio going. I'm not sure. But like I say, if the episode's long enough, this issue's encountered again, I'll end the episode there, begin anew, and close software out, everything. It'll be good to go for the next episode. But again, only if the episode is long enough. Like if the live commentary were to crap out, like not even 10 minutes into an episode, of course I wouldn't do that. That would never exist. I may include it as a blooper or something in the future, but anyway, just wanted to give everyone a heads up on that I am trying my best to not have this happen again, because It's so annoying and frustrating to me, so I can only imagine how annoying and frustrating it must be for you all. So now that we're level 4, and we've safely saved our progress from the previous episode, I'm going to start venturing further out. And I can't remember if I had actually mentioned this in the previous recording or not, but I know that I had stated something along the line of, the more, the further you venture out, the more dangerous the enemies encountered are going to become, and that's true. But one thing that I failed to mention is that not only do they become more dangerous, but sometimes I just witnessed it was a lot more goblins than usual. So not only do they become, or can they become more dangerous, but the number of enemies encountered in a single fight tend to increase a lot compared to when you're closer to town. And that's also the entire point of the name, random encounters. Not only do you not know when you're going to enter into a fight, you also have no idea what you're going to be getting into a fight with. Typically speaking though, when you encounter only one enemy, that's because that enemy is more of a threat than, your weaker enemies encountered. So just keep that in mind. That is a good general rule of thumb. And also, when I was going back and editing episode 1, I realized how long I had taken to advance the post-battle messages and everything. So I'm going to try to become more self-aware and not take forever with that. And sometimes I just don't have anything of value to say. So there will be times that I just don't talk. But as stated in the previous recording, even when that's the case, I will be keeping live commentary active so that if I do need to say something, I can just say it. So don't think I've gone anywhere if I just, stop talking. It's just because I have nothing to say at that particular moment, and I don't want to mindlessly ramble on. Okay, now this is the first enemy that can be very dangerous. And a very high physical attack value. So do not be afraid to use magic when facing a dangerous enemy like the crazy horse. If you have a game over, you will wish you had used some MP instead of trying to save it for later. When facing an enemy like Crazy Horse, make sure to cast a protective spell such as Shield on each of your spellcasters, since they have the lowest defense stat of the entire party. Also make sure to cast Sleep on Crazy Horse. It may not take on the first try, but it's super important to put this beast to sleep if you're below level 5. Otherwise, it could easily KO one of the spellcasters in a single hit. This monster does not play around. And here is the collection screen. And I wanted to show this off because it's a very handy tool to help show you different parameters of the various enemies of the game. Shows you helpful things such as their hit points, defense, magic defense stats, as well as Gil and Gil and experience earned. So like I say, very useful information to know, along with not necessarily how the leveling up system works, but how much experience is given to each character per fight. You can see here that the Crazy Horse, just one, is worth 63 experience points, but each character doesn't receive 63 experience points. They receive 1/4 of that, and that's simply because that's how things work in this game. Each character receives 1/4 the actual experience value of each enemy defeated in a fight. So it's actually super straightforward, but it also adds to the amount of time that is required to level up. So in case, if anyone was wondering, why it seems to take so long to level up, that is why. It was a creative way for this game to be programmed, but it also adds a little bit of frustrating factors into the mix at times, because sometimes you just really want to reach that next level so that some or most of the random encounters can become just a little easier. So sometimes that experience system being divided by 4, so each character can receive the same amount of experience, sometimes that can be a little frustrating. but I think I just figured out a workaround for that issue. So, if I suddenly disappear, my voice I mean, when you hear anything weird in the episode, that's more than likely me having had to turn live commentary off and back on. I'm not sure why it has the hiccups like it does. As you can see, I'm trying to get level 5 before we actually enter the game's first dungeon, because, well, you'll see once we get in there, but I'll go ahead and say it too. The frequency in which enemies are encountered are at a higher rate when you're in a dungeon or a cave, when you're not on the overworld map. That's another of the main reasons why I always try to be level 5 when first arriving. But you can get yourself in a jam really quick simply because you keep getting in fight after fight. And if you're not strong enough, you could easily be completely wiped out before you even have the chance to leave a dungeon. And then it's a domino effect. If you are able to get out of the dungeon, but you're in such desperate straits, a fight that would normally be easy on the overworld map could become life-threatening. Yes, and spiders also tend to pack a punch. One thing that, and I understand that you know, the earlier Final Fantasy games always had to be balanced. It's always done in the name of keeping things balanced. But one thing that always frustrated me about some of the earlier games is how some of these fights early in the game are really tough. Like that, I mean, that's the most damage received so far, 24 hit point loss in a single attack. Some of these are relatively tough, especially when you're lower level, and I mean, we just got 31 experience each, so I mean, that means it's the Gigas Worm, I think is its name, gives at least 120 experience points, which that's nice. I'm not talking about this, for instance. I'm talking about when we just defeated the Black Widow. That creature packed quite a punch too, but it only gave, I think, 7 experience. So sometimes it can seem quite frustrating on the difficulty of the fight doesn't always feel like it gives the proper reward when it comes to the experience given. Now, so long as your warrior is the one taking the brunt of physical attacks, it's not that bad, because at most he tends to take like 5 hit points of damage, depending on if it's a normal or critical attack, of course. But he's also the only one that has proper armor on. So that is his direct contributing factor to his physical defense and how he doesn't take too much damage, because obviously his armor is absorbing the majority of the damage. And look, Don't you worry, I'm not going to get into all of the technicalities of how numbers work in RPGs and everything. Even though I have studied quite a bit in the past, but you always have a factor that's known as a randomizer that's always put into programming. So even though you may have figured things out, there's no guarantee, when a certain, scenario is going to play out because of that randomizer factor. Take a quick look at everybody and see they are health-wise. Okay, probably head back towards town. By the time we get there, we should be close to a level up. But yes, this is episode 2 of Let's Play Final Fantasy 1. It is... I'm trying to remember if I'm being honest. This is not the next day from when episode 1 was recorded, but 2 days later. Yesterday took me a little bit of time working out some of the kinks and issues from episode 1. Even doing the voiceovers didn't want to cooperate right away, so that took me a little bit of extra time that I wasn't expecting. But I finally got it all worked out. And see, under normal circumstances, when I record, I will record episode after episode, back to back to back. But since episode 1 played out the way that it did, I had to check and make sure that I could even keep episode 1 and not have to just start the entire project from scratch. So thankfully, when I was able to determine that I could keep things, and that was yesterday evening when I finished with everything. I knew, okay, it's safe to continue with episode 2 because for obvious reasons, had I had to scrap episode 1 completely, I would not be able to progress to episode 2. I would have to restart the project, but like I say, thankfully, that's not the case. But as for today, my goal is to record as many episodes as possible. Like I say, this is episode 2. My hope and my goal is to completely record and maybe even edit all the way through episode 5. I'm trying my best to not, fly through the messages, trying to give everybody a fair chance to actually see what, you are reading, but I also don't want to stick around on it too long. Okay. Alright, now that we're at level 5, we are safe to turn to town, save our progress, and actually take on the Temple of Chaos. And that's another thing. When I was reviewing episode 1, I realized I kept calling it the Chaos Shrine when its name is Temple of Chaos. There's so many different versions of this particular game, and it is called meaning Chaos Shrine or Temple of Chaos. It is called different names depending on which version is being played, so I simply misspoke, and that is my bad. I will try to call it by its proper name. But yes, after we rest up and save progress, I will take on the game's first dungeon, and we will see how far we can make it in this episode. So far, we're making really good progress, all things considered. We're about at the 27-minute mark right now, so my goal is for each episode to be about an hour long. Some may be longer, depending on where in the game I am. You know, if I can actually pause the game right there, if I can save the game at that particular, moment. If not, then I will obviously have to continue playing until I can get to a save point, because as everyone has always witnessed in any of my Let's Play projects, I don't emulate any game. Every game that I play, I actually own in some form, whether it be a physical copy of the game that I'm playing on the actual, native console that the game was released on, or if I have bought a digital copy of a game and I'm playing it on still a console. But I have several that are like that are a game may have been released for a handheld gaming device, but it can be played on a certain console. So the game itself isn't played on its native device, but I have actually spent money acquiring the game. So, point in saying all this is that I am subject to only being able to save my progress based on when the game itself allows me to. I don't emulate. I do not have, the option for save states. So, like I say, I have to play by the game's rules, and sometimes that means being at the mercy of the game as well. Which is why each episode tends to vary in length. My goal is always to keep it around the hour mark, but sometimes it'll be a little longer, sometimes it may even be a little shorter than an hour. It just depends on what's happening in the game and when I can save it. Save, progress, I mean. Once you get into the game's first dungeon, this is the first point where you really have to start thinking about what character is going to attack what enemy. And if an enemy wasn't defeated, in the first round, you need to make sure that that you don't have your warrior attack that enemy again, because they're going to be close to being defeated. So let one of your spellcasters take that enemy on. It looks like we're going to be giving the leather cap to Rosa. She and Vivi both have the same defense stat, but of the two, Rosa has the lowest amount, the least amount of hit points. And fights like this, where you have a warg wolf first introduced, it's always best to just try to put them to sleep. Try to put them to sleep and pick them off one by one. As you can tell, once you're in the dungeon, you really start to receive even more experience from each fight. But things really become all the more unpredictable as well. So the best practice here is simply to keep your spellcasters as close to their max hit point value as possible. Thankfully, skeletons are very straightforward. I think everyone but your black mage should be able to take them out in a single hit. I think they have 10 hit points, I think, so next level up, I think everybody should be taking them out in one hit. And it is the very unpredictable nature that I always speak on, which has me tend to go back to town one more time before the story events play out here. It's always best to save one more time so that the progress made here isn't lost, just in case something unexpected happens. And yes, ghouls, and let me try that one more time, because that word sounded kind of weird coming out. Hold on. A ghoul, there we go, is one of the first enemies that is capable of inflicting a status ailment. And in that case, it caused paralysis to Rosa, which completely prevents any kind of action from being taken. Until it wears off. And there are 5 rooms overall in this dungeon. 1 on each corner and 1 right in the middle. The bottom left and top left rooms are accessible from the beginning of the game. We've just gone to both. And you get items from each room. But the top right and bottom right rooms right now are inaccessible. But I'll show them off for completion's sake. No, we're not gonna flee. We're not gonna do that either. Grief, my gamepad seems to be having a mind of its own right now. Simply trying to scroll on down to the magic option, and it just kind of went crazy on me there. But yeah, this door, and the bottom right room are going to be identical. It will require I think it said the mystic key. To unlock. And also, when you were in a dungeon, you don't have to be afraid to cast magic. But do keep in mind, what you're using. Just keep up with your MP usage. Is all I'm trying to say. And this is just rinse and repeat. A lot of this will be seen at later points in the game as well. That's the thing about Final Fantasy 1. That is the recurring theme throughout the entire game. No matter how powerful you become, each new part of the game that you reach is a challenge. And that's another reason why this game stands the test of time. I won't bother with showing the message for the bottom right room because it's identical to the top right room. It requires the mystic key. I will show off the middle of the temple though, and then we will go and save progress. But it's another of the reasons why it stands the test of time, because that's a factor that never changes. That is an innate trait to this game itself. So no matter how much time has passed since this game first released, is so present. And I really think that that truth, that factor, is one of the main reasons why some people, why some gamers tend to shy away from Final Fantasy 1, aside from the obvious reasons of, if a person doesn't enjoy RPGs, but that's kind of a common sense thing. I mean, if you don't really enjoy playing certain games, then you're just not gonna play certain games. But the difficulty factor with Final Fantasy 1, I think has always scared a lot of gamers. And I'm not gonna lie, my very first time playing this game was in this collection. What's being played right now. I was too young when this properly released, way back in the day. Oh, and side note, and I'll tie everything in together. In episode 1, I kept saying that this game was released back in the 1980s. That's true. However, it was released in Japan in the 1980s. I believe it was released here in the United States in 1990. I may still be mistaken, but I definitely know that I was wrong about saying the 80s for the United States release. So for me, I was still a little too young to properly appreciate an RPG. And I'll get back to that in just a minute, because this kind of fight does require my undivided attention. Not so much worried about the wolves, but it's the wolf that has my complete attention. Even though it's been put to sleep, it won't stay that way for long, so I'm really having to double down on my attacks on it. And it's like I say, unpredictability. That's also feels like that's, the word of the day, but it's true. Any given fight can take an unexpected turn. It also doesn't help when a character misses with their attack. So yeah, it's back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, is that even with my first experience, I had always heard a lot about the original Final Fantasy game. And I was very eager, to play it and everything. But I had definitely been, I guess you could say, spoiled by some of the newer entries at the time of the Final Fantasy series. So, they were challenging in their own regards, but nothing like the original Final Fantasy. This game was merciless, and I had heard that from other people. I heard people say that and talking. I had read that online, different things like that, but hearing and seeing certain things, reading about certain things, and then experiencing certain things are two totally different things. So, yeah, it was definitely an experience. My first time playing this game, I fell in love right away, even though it was very challenging. But I definitely came to appreciate all of the other, nuances and staples that exist in later Final Fantasy games when I first played this game, because I saw, the roots of the entire, system. In this one game. So, yeah. I will have to conclude story time for now. That'll be all I say about that for now. We are at about the 50-minute mark. I could very easily keep playing and let this, just add more to this episode. But what happens next in the story, I'm not going to give anything away, of course, but it's rather time consuming, so it could easily push things into like way over the 1 hour threshold. So I will take a break right now. I'm going to save it one more time just to make sure that it actually did, and it did. So, take a temporary break for now, but I'll dive right back into things in the very near future. So, as always, thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will catch y'all in the next episode of Let's Play Final Fantasy 1. As always, this is LP Guru, and I'm signing out.